3.5 weeks.
Feels like a lifetime.
Well, it is the longest I actually been away from Canada since 30 plus years ago. So yeah, it's I guess I'll say is I'm well rested. For anyone that just caught in, I was actually in Taiwan celebrating Lunar New Year and also visiting parents for the whole January. I just got back a couple of days ago. So always nice to be seeing your beautiful face and being able to do podcasts in real person in comparison to Zoom.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Back to Monday, podcast day. Happy Year of the Rabbit to everyone out there.
Yeah.
I think we have a little bit of a different episode today.
Yeah, so
you
since
brought me something.
I did. Since I just came back from Taiwan, I had the opportunity to visit quite a bit of real estate, some new, some pre-sales, some older ones. And I felt like the way that the real estate is built in Taiwan is just so different from what I'm so accustomed to in Vancouver. And knowing you haven't really visited Asia at all, correct me if I'm wrong?
I think I've only been to Asia twice in my lifetime. Once when I was 5 and then once a couple of years ago. Both times to Hong Kong. I've been to Japan once, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But never looked at Asian countries through the lens of real estate. So I think what we're going to do today is going to be very interesting for me.
Right. And that leads to, I took a bunch of pictures, so I wanted to compare some of the differences. Now, not all of this is exactly the way they build in Taiwan, but I just felt some of them are so unique. And it's quite common, and that's the reason why I kind of want to take some pictures, I want to show you, and then why don't you actually let me know which one you prefer, this one or that one, and I'll pitch in my opinion as well.
Okay,
yeah,
let's do it. And I mean, this is completely unscripted, so just so you guys can see. My laptop's actually blank. This is just a prop.
There's nothing here anyways. Yeah, and then I guess in a way it will be good for you to also understand what Asia real estate is kind of like and some of the small differences here and there.
No, 100%. And we definitely recommend you guys, if you're just listening through your podcast platform, definitely worth checking out on our YouTube channel. Of course, the link is always in the description because we will be posting the same photos up on YouTube.
That's right.
I mean, we'll be as descriptive as possible of what I'm seeing when Joe shows me these photos, but definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely. If there's one episode that you want to, see the video format, I think this one will be it. So you just have a better, clear understanding. So let's get to it.
Okay.
I think I have 8 comparisons in total for us to kind of go through. So let me just turn on this one. First one, underground parking.
Okay.
But I'll let you explain what you see.
Okay, looks at first glance like standard concrete underground parking lot. Yeah, I see piping. What's unique here is it looks like there's a hanging sign with a number, I assume is a stall number, but also underneath of that there is what looks like some Chinese character I can't read, and then 2 different sets of license plates.
That's correct. So the key point I wanted to show you from this photo is not for every single underground parking for Taiwan high-rises, but for some of them they do have something like this. Is I guess they already tell you that this parking space, only these license plates can park here. Assuming that these are your spots, these are your car, and these are your license, of course, right?
Okay.
I see the benefit. I'll go first. The benefit I see that I really, really like is the fact that there is no misunderstanding. There is no accidents, right? This is your space. Like the chances of your neighbor accidentally parking in your space, it's very, very difficult. It's rare. Right.
That's funny you bring that up because I actually have talked to some rental property managers who have helped tenants with like disputes on, this person was parking in my parking stall, and it becomes like this big thing in social media or like the strata Facebook groups, and they just like go to war with each other. So I also love the fact that this removes any doubt as to who is the owner of the stall. Now, I would have personally like a follow-up question is like, okay, is someone patrolling this? And also, if someone is parking there, is there some type of fine associated with that? Like,
I mean, to the best of my understanding is yes. In fact, I might as well throw this out there, is in Taiwan, majority of the buildings actually all have like 24-hour concierge. Majority of the buildings there, which obviously then they could use to patrol the underground parking to make sure that these are enforced. I guess the biggest thing is also because labor in Asia is just cheaper. So there, even if the concierge is to sit in the front desk for a long period of time, they could still have someone to come down and patrol the underground parking in this particular instance, right? Yeah, and then of course the second one I was told by the strata manager of this particular building is that if someone complains and it's not the license plate that is registered, it's gone. It's immediately gone because there's no dispute at all. These are the only 2 license plates. Some of them only has 1. Like these are the license plates that's only allowed to park here. Interesting. Now my question for you is, do you think Vancouver should implement something like this, if possible? Would you like it?
I don't think it's a bad idea. I do, however, don't really like people being able to associate a specific license plate to living in that building. I don't know why. It's like the anonymity, privacy thing. I know it's like very, very, I don't know, weird. I think it's a little bit weird. I'll be open to admitting that. But I don't know. I just don't like people knowing where I live. And I also, because I park in a separate garage, like a private one, I've never had to deal with this issue.
Okay, so you never had to deal with your neighbors accidentally parking on your space?
Never.
Okay. Now because I'm gonna say that the advantage of this totally outweighs the disadvantage of privacy. That's all I'm saying. And this is one I wish that a lot of strata councils in Vancouver could implement. Now, whether the patrol, whatever, just having the license plate, they're like, this spot is this license plate, I think that's already a strong indication that to reduce the amount of basically your neighbors accidentally parking.
If I had to vote on it, I'd be pro signage for parking stalls, 100%.
Perfect. I think we're at a good start. So let's go to the second picture. This is a washroom. There's 2 things I want to discuss from this photo, but I'll let you explain what you see.
Okay.
Ignore the plastic.
Okay. So what Joe's referring to is there's a plastic covering on the toilet cover. I assume
it's a pre-sale. So it's brand new.
Okay, it's a pre-sale, it's brand new. Cool. I see a faucet tap about 2 inches from the right wall. I see a floor drain directly under that, and maybe another inch to the left of the floor drain is the toilet seat itself. But it looks like, is that a bidet?
That is the bidet. Let's start the conversation with that. I'll get to the faucet right afterwards. I would say about 95% of all the washrooms that I've been to in Taiwan through this trip, regardless of the residential homes, department stores, office buildings, the only ones I really didn't see is kind of like, your pit stops and stuff like that. They all have a bidet on it.
Okay, so my knowledge of bidets, I have limited experience. I've tried them before. When I was in Japan, they were very common.
Yep.
And I think there was a reason, I forgot the reason why it was really common in Japan. But basically, their function is that they warm the toilet seat, correct me if I'm wrong, and also they wash your bumhole.
With water, yes. Those are the 2 main things.
Okay.
You missed the third one is they also help you clean your toilet.
Oh, self-cleaning.
Self-cleaning.
Okay.
So I personally really like some portion of it. I'll explain to you which portion I like.
I already know which portion.
After using it for 3.5 weeks, I have grown quite fond of the heating of the toilet. Why are you laughing?
I'm sure it's the heating of the toilet.
Yes.
Heating, guys.
I don't know. When I got back, I still remember I got back a couple days ago and I sat on my own toilet and I'm like, whoa, okay, this is really cold. I really like that portion. The second portion, which I am not a huge fan of, and this is very North American of me, is I don't like the self-cleaning thing, the water pressure thing that shoots up to clean your bum bum. I never got used to it, but everybody in Asia loves it. My third thing is, self-cleaning is cool, man. I like the self-cleaning toilet thing. Who doesn't like that, right? I don't know. You went to Japan, you use it, share your experience.
I think my initial reaction was I was very like, oh, this is kind of weird. Like, I don't know. We would love to hear what your personal experience is if you have any of bidets and your opinions.
Yeah.
But for me, I remember it was a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what are these buttons? And nobody explained to me what it was. I was just like, oh, these buttons look kind of interesting.
Try it. Japanese and you don't understand
exactly.
it.
And all of a sudden it's like, I was like, okay, whoa, that was a little invasive, but okay. The seat warmer, I like if it was my personal residence. If it was in a communal washroom, warm toilet seat, those things put together does not paint a very positive picture in my head. And I know most people actually just squat like when they're in a public washroom because toilet seats carry a lot of bacteria, but I don't know, the idea of it, sure, personal residence, sure. But it would not make me more likely to buy a home if it came with a brand new bidet.
Well, let's say that if you are buying a home and obviously maybe you don't have the limitation of electric plugs and stuff like that, would you go with a bidet? And now that you think about it, I'll answer first. Before I went back to Taiwan this trip around, I'm like, yeah, bidets, yeah. Why would anyone want that? Now I've been using it for about 3.5 weeks. I'm like, you know what? I would like a bidet in my own house. I agree with you. Like department stores, public areas, like forget it. That's whatever.
It's just unnecessary.
Yeah, but it is a sign of luxury in a way almost.
Yeah.
Right. But in the residence house, I'm like, I'm getting really addicted to this stuff. Once again, just the heating portion of it, the cleaning the bottom, I was never accustomed to it.
Okay, Joe's birthday is in July, so for everyone listening and watching, if you love what we do here and you want to send Joe a bidet for his birthday.
I don't even have an electric plug around my toilet.
Okay, I can say that I am also pro bidet.
Okay. Since we have come to agreement, let's talk about the faucet and the drain. And I see this in almost every single washroom I went to in Taiwan. Once again, commercial, department store, or residence. For some odd reason, there always has a faucet. It doesn't necessarily have to be like immediately right to the toilet. It's generally pretty close. And then there's also this drain. And my assumption is that they could just connect the hose to a power washer or any sort of washer, and then they could literally just wash down the whole washer. Right? Whereas here, you'll see that it's like, another thing you'll see is this is all tiles around it. In Vancouver, there isn't. There's only tiles around it by the bathtub.
Yes.
And then it's mostly drywall, unless you go to these really high-end
Yeah, that really wouldn't work here.
Yeah. But let's assume that is the case, like your whole washroom is kind of tiled up and stuff like that. Do you think this is a good idea? Like, would you appreciate something like this where you could just spray down your whole washroom and then just all the water just goes through a drain, you don't have to worry about it? Obviously, assuming all the water penetration is done properly.
I don't know, this just confused me a little bit. It's like, does everyone in Taiwan take like explosive diarrhea shits on the regular? Is that why they need to clean the floors all the time? Do they not know how to aim into the toilet? I have a lot of questions about that. For me, given the material that everything is like tile, I can see the functionality. It'd be easier to clean. I'm not for or against it, especially if the water penetration and everything is like done well. I think it's a little unnecessary for me.
Okay. My choice is I like it. Granted, it's also because your whole washroom is tiled up. That always feels nice and luxurious, right? I just think the cleaning would be easier. I do agree with the cleaning.
It's just in an awkward spot. I feel like I'm leaning directly over the toilet bowl, even if there's seat covers on, just to try and get to this tap. It's a little bit weird.
Yeah, I'm indifferent about this. I was quite confused. But hey, if you're a listener, you're from these Asian countries, and there's a usage about this faucet that we might potentially have missed, let us know. But the only way I was thinking about was like, plug into it and start cleaning your washroom with it. Right? So, yeah, let us know. So next picture. This is a pre-sale. There's two things that I want to discuss out of this picture. The first one is majority of the residential homes I went to in Taiwan, in the common area, when I mean common, I mean the living, the dining area, they still like to use stone tiles. That's probably why at least my parents, maybe your parents too, or any Asian parents, when you go into their house, they're always like, slippers? Slippers? You want to wear some slippers? Right?
I always wondered about that, even though like when we lived in a place that had carpets, it was like slippers. My grandma's house, like, they have tile and there's always slippers. I deny every single time. I don't enjoy wearing slippers actually. I like either wearing my socks or just going bare feet, but only if there's floor heating. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe maybe in Asia they do not typically have floor heating as a standard.
Well, in Taiwan, let's put it this way, there actually are some homes that actually don't even have heating because it's so hot there. And because it's so hot there, they don't feel like there's a need for, especially in-floor heating, because that's a really expensive upgrade, right? And I can imagine why then, after seeing all these different real estate places, why my parents is always wear slippers. Because when I was in Taiwan, I was also hit with a really, really cold weather pattern. And these stone floorings became extremely cold. I'll put it that way. Extremely, extremely cold.
What are socks? Do you know wear socks?
Socks with this, you might slip, man.
Okay, and on that note, I mean, I love tile. It has a very luxurious feel. All those big mansions that you walk into in Richmond and Vancouver, typically they have tile in the common areas.
Yeah.
It's not very baby-proof or child-proof. I feel like a child banging their head in tile, like, it hurts 10 times more than if they were to bang their head on hardwood or vinyl or laminate.
I don't disagree. Yeah. But then again, I'm pretty sure that if you bang your head on hardwood, you're probably still gonna get injured, right? I just found that super interesting. Now, before we move on, would you tiles on main living areas, living room, dining room, kitchen area?
In a house, yes. In a townhouse or a condo, probably not, unless it was like one of those like luxury condos, like maybe in the Pac Rim, maybe if you're like downtown New York and you're in those like crazy buildings where the whole building costs like $1 billion or whatever it is. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. It's funny though, because like in North America, having stone tiles for your flooring is a sign of luxury. Then in Asia, it's just, everybody kind of has it. It's standard, right? Second thing I wanted to discuss from this picture is, since we're already talking about heaters and stuff like that, this is a pre-sale product. You'll see that there's a little hole right on top of the window. Yeah, you see that? Yeah. That's actually meant for your air conditioning. So what that means is that during a pre-sale home, your air conditioning and your heating systems are not included as part of the home. So it's not centralized, is what I'm trying to say. And another thing, I'll show you this picture as well. This is actually a courtyard picture of a high-rise. For anyone that follows my social media, that know this is my parents' place. Explain to people what you see.
I'm sorry, but this photo is a little depressing for me. The color scheme is just like beige. It looks like I'm looking at 34 units or so on one side of the building, and every single balcony just has AC units. I don't see any green in this photo at all, and it looks really cramped together.
It is. Well, I mean, population.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, very dense population, very finite amount of land in Asia. Have AC or not AC. I guess I like the option for people to choose.
Yeah.
I would personally prefer that it already come with it if I were buying it. A pre-sale.
Okay.
Less hassle for me to have to like
install it and do all that stuff. But I do see a benefit for this though. The benefit I do see is that if your AC is broken in your strata, it has nothing to do with you. Because you're in charge of the own AC systems and exhaust and stuff like that.
Yeah, so the shared cost would be reduced.
Exactly. Right. But I agree with you. When I was shocked too when I went to these pre-sales. This is a pretty luxurious building too. Like they were just like, yeah, you buy your own AC, and I was just calculating. It was like, okay, well, this is a 4-bedroom. You need an AC unit for every single bedroom. You need an AC for your downstairs and probably like your foyer area. Like just the air conditioning costs, aside from the real estate costs, right? It's dramatic because air conditioning ain't cheap either, right? It's just something that's quite interesting. And on top of that, I have heard from some real estate agents that some of, I guess, first-time home buyers, they don't have the money to buy air conditioning, so they go live in it first, and then they'll
upgrade it after.
Upgrade it as they go along.
Wow.
Kind of interesting. Right?
It's very different.
Yeah. That will bring us to the next photo. This is a back alley. This is, let's put it this way. This is a newer building. Mm-hmm. This will be an older complex. One of the things I realized, and maybe you already know, talking to some Asian clientele, is that they love the cross breeze. Mm-hmm. They always ask, it's like, I like my home to either face north-south or west-east. And initially when I joined the industry, I'm like, what? Why? How is that even possible? Mm-hmm. And then as I visit more Taiwan real estate, I realized that they do actually design the home like that, right? So that's one of the reasons of a common back alley. This is obviously a very older neighborhood.
I appreciate the backstory on this alley because at first glance, I was like, am I going to get murdered or mugged here? Or like, Joe, were you okay? Like, why were you visiting a bad part of town? Because literally the width of this alley looks about 8 feet. Mm-hmm. So about 8 feet between buildings. It's dark, it's gloomy, it looks old, it doesn't necessarily look clean. I would be a little concerned walking down this alley. Now, on the flip side, given what you've told me, I can actually see this in a different light, maybe a different type of day, maybe on the weekend, where I could see it being a lot more lively. Maybe there's the kids that live in the building are playing in that back alley. Maybe there's some type of market that goes on there. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I could jump from one side of the building to the other like Spider-Man. So security-wise, probably not for me.
And you can probably see why there's fences on there. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, yes, there are windows, but they don't have any bedrooms or like major living area that purposely look into this area.
Yeah.
You'll see that it's kind of a little bit fenced here. So let me just quickly merge the next picture with this picture. Maybe that will give you another perspective.
Yeah.
Which is this. This is the pre-sale.
Yeah.
And that is actually a balcony that faces into an inner street. And that's actually where washer is located. Now, I said washer. So one of the first things I want to discuss before we go back to those pictures is in Taiwan, dryer is an extremely luxurious item. They don't have dryers. And I also, because of this trip, I understand why Asian clientele, they love to hang their clothes because it's part of their daily routine.
Yeah, that's just how they've always done it, and they grew up that way. And I remember growing up out in Richmond at our family home, my grandma would hang the clothes on a pulley system in the backyard from the balcony and tied to a tree, and just clip them on there. At the time, I never really considered, well, in Vancouver, you and I both know it rains like 7 out of 10 days of the week. Mm-hmm. So how did clothes ever get dry?
Well, in Vancouver, at least we do have the Arctic wind, which is extremely dry. That's why people use, moisturizers here.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas in Asia, a lot of them use humidifiers because it's just so.
Or dehumidifiers.
Dehumidifiers. And the dehumidifier is crazy. Like 4 hours on, the whole bucket will be like full of water. Right. Mm-hmm. So bringing it back to this picture is that. The reason why I'm saying this is because, number one, your washer are generally outside of your unit, around the back balcony area, which is this area right here.
Yeah.
So it has two uses. Not only is it giving you the cross breeze, it's also an area where you actually just dry your clothes. Now you can tell why it needs to be in the back alley because visually it's not pleasing. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I mean, this picture here, you can kind of see around the corner around there. I mean, the picture doesn't show it, but that's kind of where they dry their clothes as well. Not just because this is a newer complex that they have a magical way of getting rid of this situation.
That's so interesting because when you look at North America, all the bylaw restrictions of hanging anything on your balcony, whereas here it's like, no, we encourage it because that's the only space that you can do it.
Yes, and that's where I'm saying is that with the older buildings, they don't have any options. So a lot of people, as my parents like to say, they like to hang their flags in the front of the building, which is nasty. Like we all see pictures of, I don't know, it's like Hong Kong or whatever, you just see like clothes like literally getting hung from their balcony. And that's probably the reason why they have this whole back alley system where that's where kind of people dry their clothes or hand dry their clothes. Mm-hmm. So Now that you understand all of this, a couple questions for you. Number one, what do you feel about having the washer? Actually, no. What do you feel about this whole back alley system and creating this cross breeze for your unit, knowing the disadvantage that comes with it?
It's interesting that you asked that question because what's going on in my mind isn't necessarily the cross breeze. I see this as an opportunity to build a closer connection with your neighbors and actually have a little bit of a community going on there to enhance security, camaraderie, what have you. I don't really think about the cross breeds that much. And of course, because I haven't lived in Taiwan, like that's probably why. Other than that, it wouldn't be my first choice. The buildings are so close together. Like I said, it's kind of dark. The lighting there is very poor. I don't really feel very safe going back there.
No, I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then my second question is, what do you feel about this whole concept of having a washer outside?
It does not motivate me to want to do my laundry even more. Especially like imagining in the dead of winter when it's like -4, -10 outside. I gotta walk outside to put in my laundry and take it out when it's wet. Like, wouldn't the laundry just like freeze outside? I don't understand. Don't get me wrong, it makes me very, very grateful and appreciative that in Vancouver we have the luxury of being able to have dryers, and that comes as like a standard with all houses and condos. But I can't imagine living like that.
Okay.
I mean, like obviously some clothes I hang dry myself, but to do like all of it, I think that's a little too much.
I like how you say the sense of community because like I saw it this time and we see a lot in Asian movies. It's like one person's hand drying their clothes and then their neighbor's hand drying their clothes and they literally just strike up a conversation.
Yeah.
You can't have that here in Vancouver.
Well, what I think about when you mention that is I think about the upstairs neighbor pouring a bucket of water downstairs and it landing on like the downstairs neighbor and then getting into an argument and then, it's just like very
It's community living, right? It's kind of interesting here. Okay, so let's head to the next picture. This is a pre-sale.
Okay. I see a lovely model there. That must be your girlfriend.
Whoops. She wouldn't appreciate that.
She was your assistant.
So backstory from this picture is this is a pre-sale unit. Some of these items are already pre-negotiated, but you want to quickly just tell people what you're looking at here?
Yeah, it actually looks like a bigger kitchen than what I was expecting for a condo in Taiwan or anywhere in Asia, for starters. I noticed that, there's a cooktop, there's a hood vent, but I see 2 gaping holes where maybe an oven and a fridge would be.
Okay, you're almost there.
And I don't see a microwave, but I do see a dishwasher.
Okay.
So either it's partially complete or it doesn't come with one?
Yeah. So the backstory is this is a pre-sale unit that is about to complete. I think it completes the day after we visited.
Okay.
So a lot of these things I can kind of let you know was pre-negotiated into the contract. First thing is dishwashers. Come on, let's be honest, man. Our parents don't really use dishwashers.
I still don't use a dishwasher, as you know. I hand wash everything.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this after the podcast.
My kids will hand wash everything too, and that's just the way it's gonna be. Short of like a big gathering, we have like a big 10-person dinner or something. Of course, we'll use a dishwasher.
I see. Okay. So
they gotta earn their allowance somehow.
And there's other things you could do to give them allowances, man. Another thing is the island that you're looking at from this picture is also negotiated into it. So what I really want to show you from this picture is when you buy a pre-sale in Taiwan, I'm gonna say Vancouver, in Taiwan, a lot of items are actually not included. We already talked about the air conditioning system. From this picture, I'm also going to show you that actually a lot of the appliances or the kitchen islands are not part of your standard package when you buy a home.
Okay.
Especially like once again a brand new home. You as the purchaser needs to budget some of that cost, and then you have to go out there, maybe to a Best Buy or whatever, and buy your own set of appliances.
Or not.
Or just. I don't think you should do that. Or you just do that. And of course, the kitchen island, if you don't want a kitchen island, then you could actually decide what you want to build. You could build maybe like a wooden island or a different style. So that way, I guess at least the purchasers of the pre-sale units, a lot of different customizations that they could do.
Mm-hmm.
So my question for you is, do you like that, or do you like the way that we have it here where everything is all pre-built?
I can appreciate the opportunity to customize and explore my creativity if I was like a chef and say I was very particular about the type of oven that I want or the type of refrigerator that I want. For me personally, if I were to buy a pre-sale, I would want things to be as easy as possible. Meaning, give me 3 options. Give me a Wolf, give me a Miele, give me a Samsung, and I pick one of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. I think if I were to really want to customize everything, I just build my own house.
I mean, this is a lot of people don't have the money to do that.
Well, we're talking about ideally.
Yes, ideally. Here is, I guess, I understand where you're coming from, and I get it. I'm a little bit mixed on this because I really like the fact that people do get to customize their home after, obviously, the developer has finished the work. Because then it will make every single home a little bit more unique to its own liking based on whoever's living there and their design. So for example, let's say Amazing Brentwood, 40-something story high-rise, I cannot just automatically assume 301, 501, 601, 701 to look exactly the same. They might have the same square footage, but they might have completely different design inside altogether. Some might have more of a modern flair to it, some might have a more of a traditional flair to it, some might have a Japanese flair, natural wood kind of style into it. Now, I think that uniqueness of every single unit does make kind of the home shopping experience kind of unique in a particular way, right? On the flip side, I'm also very torn because I don't want to wait 2.5 years. Finally, I have my unit, and then now I need to dish out another $80,000 to $150,000 on renovation because you can't mortgage that.
Not only that, but what if those appliances are sold out? As we see, pretty common that there's a back order on certain appliances, and there's a lot of new construction that's like, I'm just missing an oven. Sorry, it's gonna be another 2 weeks. So there's also that. True.
So give and take, I'm quite torn because I do see the benefit of each side, yet I also see the downfall of each side as well.
Yeah, and I don't think we mentioned this, but it's also more difficult to do comps when we're trying to assess property value.
So you can't just be like, that one sold for $600. We're one floor up. Ours is worth about $605.
No, all of a sudden we're selling Granny Smith apple versus a Fuji apple. Like they're still apples, but then now they're slightly different. You got another layer of complexity towards assessing that unit.
And I think on top of that, as I was talking to some real estate agents, they were like, it also depends on what kind of renovation, and they put the renovation cost, the quality of the renovation into part of the home cost as well, which obviously makes it a little bit more complicated. Right? Okay, fair enough. Next. Since we finished talking about kind of the interior design, how they don't really include all the appliances, there's some customizations, let's now shift our attention towards the amenities for these concrete high-rises or any of these high-rise buildings. I didn't have a picture of it, so I kind of snapped a quick screenshot from my Instagram. What you're looking at here is a games room, which I was shocked because, come on, let me just ask you on the spot. Games room in Vancouver. What do you expect inside?
A table tennis table, a billiards table.
Damn, your games room is fancy already.
A TV.
And a TV?
And some couches.
Which part of it is actually gaming, aside from the pool table?
No, it definitely sounds more like a recreational space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now this is a games room in a high-rise complex in Taiwan. It's actually my parents' place. You want to explain? Do you care to explain to people what you see?
Yeah, I'm literally staring at an air hockey table. I mean, some people have that in their homes, not in a condo, but in that Maple Ridge house, like they have an air hockey table there, which is really cool. But what I really love, obviously, is that they have 2 of those basketball hoops, similar to what they have in the rec room and the theaters, and what they used to have in Palladium.
Yeah. And that's only what you see from this picture. I'll tell you, on the right of it is a pool table, and then to the right of that is a little sitting area, and then they have a lot of board games there.
I love this, but immediately I think, okay, what am I paying for it for my strata fee?
Well, to be honest, I thought about that, and you're on the right track. But what I'm thinking is, if you're already spending money to clean a games room that has a TV, that has a pool table, how much more would this cost? The only thing I can see is someone ill-intended breaks these, right? Then I can say, oh, okay. But you can say that exactly the same for the table tennis thing that we have in our games room, right? I guess what I'm trying to say is just, if we're gonna advertise it as a games room, I really would rather see this. Because, I'll give you a perfect example. I think I was going to 7-Eleven on one of the days, it was about 7 p.m. at night. When I walked past this games room, I did see a lot of young families, kids, like kind of meeting each other, having a great time in the games room. So it's not a dead space. Because let's be honest, a lot of these condos that we have in Vancouver, all of these games rooms just become dead space. Nobody use it because there's no intention for them to use it. I used that basketball shooting thing like a couple of times when I was there already because I was having such a blast of it. It's actually fun.
Did that fix your broken jump shot?
No, it did not. But what I'm saying is, when you have a games room like this, it does create more of a sense of community, and you entice people actually wanting to use it more than whatever is like, oh, here's a pool table, a TV, and a couch.
Yeah, because in our other podcast when we're talking about amenities, we're like, hey, you're paying for stuff that you don't even use. This games room, I'd probably come down here at least once a day, in between breaks of working, just like shoot some hoops. And I would love to hang out here. I would love it if my future children would invite their friends and have a hangout and community. I'm all about that. I love this space, and I think, I kind of question why developers here don't create spaces like that, or why stratas don't create spaces like that.
That's what I always thought too, because honestly, the arcade basketball machine, like honestly, in the grand scale of things, when we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, like, how much is one of these machines? Like, I don't know, like 5 to 10 grand Canadian?
Max,
right? I just shove a couple of these in there. And to be honest, like, if you want, you could still receive quarters and you can make some side income for the strata. But if you're gonna advertise at a games room, have it actually have games inside. I didn't even get started.
I might even bring that up to my strata now.
I haven't even get started with the board games. I mean, board games is just board games. How much difference and how much would that actually cost for the strata?
Like $20, $30 per game?
Exactly, right? So I found this is quite interesting. I loved it, and that's why I want to quickly share it with everybody.
Wow.
The second amenity. Now this is on the flip side. A lot of condos in Taiwan, even if they're newer, they don't have a gym. It's just not something they're accustomed to. The ones that does have a gym, such as this one that I'm showing you right here in my parents' place, they only have cardio machines. They don't have weights. Now, maybe I just haven't seen the ones that's luxurious enough to have weights in there, but I see that they either have nothing or they just have very bare minimum of cardio machines. I think this might go with the way that what they're accustomed to, because in Asia, I think the concept of lifting weight and having muscle, it's not mainstream until the last decade or so, right? So I felt like it was kind of interesting to kind of show people, like when people say that they have a gym in their building in Taiwan, you're expecting something like this or something smaller than this.
Yeah, and let me just quickly describe to you what we see here. I see 3 treadmills in a space that could easily have 6 or 7 occupy the same space, and then also have 2 racks of weights and like 2 or 3 benches. To me, that doesn't make sense at all, given what I know about like the scarcity of land and how important space is in Asia. I would think that they would at least put something different there. It just looks like kind of an empty, dead space.
And going back from our previous pictures, you'll realize that it seems like the developer put more effort into the games room than it is to the actual gym, right? Which I also found kind of interesting.
I guess that's a play on the wants and needs of the people that potentially will be living there in the future. I mean, physical fitness, weight training is, like you said, has only really developed in Asia in like the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Even in Hong Kong, where a lot of my friends live. It's probably more prominent there than in Taiwan from what you've described to me, but still nowhere near what it's like in North America.
Correct.
I mean, there's not a lot of gym bros walking around the streets of Hong Kong.
Definitely not. I mean, Taiwan, they're just starting to have some. I mean, just look at the police officers of Hong Kong, Taiwan versus Canada and North America. You can tell in the police officer, I think, in their systems, weightlifting or heavy weightlifting is just not part of their, but they are, I bet anything, they're probably really good on cardio. They could probably outrun you.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
I think also because of the terrain, there's a lot more like slopes and mountains and stuff like that, so they have to be really good at running uphill.
Maybe, yeah, which I totally agree. I found this quite interesting. And once again, like, compared to the police officers here in Canada and in America, you see them, we're like, okay, whoa, okay, I don't want to.
They have the presence and the intimidation factor.
Exactly, and I think that kind of goes with how they plan and also build out their amenities in a way. Kind of interesting. Question for you, what do you feel about this? Focus more on the games room or focus more towards the gym?
Why not both?
That's why I agree with you. Why not both? Because I agree with you with the space that they have occupying here, like we have a budget desk space kind of where from the angle I took, they could have easily put a Bowflex machine there.
Yeah, and like through our conversations with one another, we both know how much we value balance, our work-life balance, mental health and all that. And there's undeniable research that shows physical exercise aids in reducing stress and improving mental health for everyone. So I would really want a developer to focus more attention on spaces like this so that everyone in the building can enjoy it and just live overall happier and healthier lives.
Agreed. But come on, Canadian developers. The games room, it really doesn't cost that much money. Put in a couple of those basketball machines. Everybody will love it. Everybody loves it. I don't see one person that doesn't like playing on those machines.
No. They're always packed when I go to the rec room. There's always a lineup for people wanting to compete against one another.
Exactly. All right, next, amenities. Okay. I'm not going to say much. Explain to people where you're staying and I will ask you the questions.
All right, let me try to paint a picture for everybody here. I'm sure most of us have watched Iron Man. This reminds me of Tony Stark's Malibu home in his garage, where, of course, there's cars there, but right in the middle, there's this like glass cylinder, a spiral staircase going up into the main level. Is this like a garage for cars? No. Or is it just like a lobby?
Correct and correct.
Yeah.
So this is actually an underground parking level, and this is their parking lobby. So in Vancouver, a lot of these condos, I think there's some newer ones that's changing the concept a little bit, but a lot of them, when you go from your underground parking to your elevator, what is it, fob door, and it's probably concrete floors, it looks very cold, and there's not a lot of drywall finishes on the side.
It's kind of dead.
It's kind of dead. It's kind of scary sometimes. And there's probably no reception too.
Yes, definitely the no reception we've all experienced.
And obviously this is probably a little bit more of a luxurious, this is a newer building, but what they have is they want people to have that sense of hominess, I guess, the moment you leave your car. So you can see that it's concrete there, but the moment you come around this area, it becomes tiles, there's glass, and by the way, that's a piano.
I didn't even see that.
That's a piano. So you go in and then you do your staircase or you take the elevator and then you go home. So that sense of coming home immediately starts when you get off your car.
I'm just going to have to say I respect the cultural differences and perspectives because this makes no sense to me. It's not practical. The piano is a waste of space. Is someone actually going to be sitting there playing piano all day? Like, what's the cost of maintaining something like that? Give me a nicer common area, give me a green roof, give me a garden. Like, I'd rather take something like that than to have this. This to me doesn't really speak of home. This speaks to me like, hey, I'm trying to make this space look super luxurious.
Yes.
And that's not really necessarily homey to me.
I think I agree with you. I personally feel like this is a little bit overdone. I mean, I love the examples. But I'm going to keep it simple. How about just more parking spaces?
Yes. That could easily fit another 6 to 8 visitor parking stalls.
Yes. So but I do understand where they're coming from in terms of luxury, and the sense of home starts immediately, not when you go up the elevator. When the elevator opens, you see the hallways and all that stuff. Okay. So I found that this is kind of interesting, and to be honest, this is slowly coming up. There's a couple of new projects around town that's doing something. Nothing as crazy as this, but like the fact that they have like the lobby.
Nice. It looks nice. It's aesthetic, but it's not practical for me. And if I were to live in a condo building, I would much rather have more parking stalls or wider parking stalls. How about that?
Right.
We all know about that building that had a complaint about. I don't know if you remember. There was a stall that was supposed to be regular size, but an SUV could barely fit
Oh,
in there.
yeah.
You know that one?
I know that one. Oh, yeah. I know that one. All right. So that concludes kind of the amenities part. The last part I am wanting to quickly talk about is the way that the city plans, the country plans its city. Mm-hmm. In Vancouver, we're very all about zoning. RS1s, RS2s, RS3s, commercial, industrial. There's areas that you can only do certain things.
Yes.
In Taiwan, it's a little bit more murky in terms of that.
I can tell.
This is actually a picture of Kaohsiung, which is actually the southern part of Taiwan.
Yeah.
And then you can see there's some high rises, some low rises, there's some apartment buildings. It's kind of like a big mixed pot of everything. Right? So the second picture is I want to quickly show you. This is a very typical Taiwanese street. You can see that there is residence on top, and there is commercial on the ground floor, and there is no concept of setbacks, building to building or building to street.
Side note, does that banner say young glasses for young people?
Yeah. It's actually apparently pretty famous optometrist
Okay. Interesting signage, okay.
Yeah. And once again, I was talking about the signage. There's less limitations on what kind of signage you can put out as long as, I guess, just owners of that building all agreed upon it.
Okay.
Okay? And the third picture, this is actually from someone's house. This is in the city center. It's very close to the market. It's very close to everything. This is from a single detached house looking across the street. You can see that that's a high-rise building with individual units, and to the left, that's its hotel. And once again, there is no gap between buildings.
Excuse my language, but that's fucked up. That does not look right to me. Like, why would I want to live in a single detached home looking into a high-rise? Sure, it probably means like I'm a baller and I can afford to live in a busy place like that, but this literally reminds me of those the detached homes that were left over. Was it like on Hornby Street before? In downtown, there was like a couple of detached houses that were left.
Yes.
It just looks completely out of place. And I get it. Also, then now I started to go on a tangent, but it reminds me of that movie Up, where they didn't want to sell their house. So everyone knows the story. But yeah, that just doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah.
I think you already know my answer. I think I value a little bit of uniformity.
I agree with you, but not all the way. Yes, granted, I don't really appreciate this, but this is also a way to create convenience for people who are living around it, because you're gonna have commercial on the ground floor, and there's just a mixed pot of everything.
Yeah, but I'm also very concerned about the security. Like, that guy has a big gate in front of his house, but I would think that if I were one of those people, I'd walk down the street and be like, oh wow, this kind of house in this neighborhood, huh? They must be rich. And if I were motivated enough, that gate is not going to stop me from trying to go and break into that place and take whatever I can and run.
Agreed. On the flip side is maybe whoever is living in that, they also really appreciate the fact that it's so close to kind of the market, the hospitals, the schools and stuff like that, without sacrificing the fact that they have to live in a condo. If they're rich enough, they could literally just build a house there.
I'll say what I said in the beginning. I respect the cultural differences and perspectives of people who live there, but that is definitely not for me. Okay. This street level, the mixed use buildings, I enjoy. Of course, as long as there's some restrictions on what types of businesses can open there, because hey, if I was living in a condo and then they all of a sudden open an adult video entertainment store, I'd be like, oh hell no, I don't want any of my future kids around there. I think it draws like a different type of crowd that I might not necessarily condone or support. So I'm open to this.
Okay, because this is the only part that I'm open to, and I really think that this is a city of Vancouver should really consider not opening up like how Taiwan opens it up, right? Everybody's free for all, but certainly some areas that is currently zoned as residential, I would say that it would be nice for them to be able to have the opportunity to just widely open a business on the ground floor.
Yeah, because what have you told me is like, I feel like if I had the capital, I could go anywhere in Taiwan and just open a mega mall.
Yeah.
Smack dab in the middle of residential.
Well, I think mega mall might be too big of a complex for you to just widely open. But
at least a strip mall.
A strip mall, or at least a grocery store downstairs. A small grocery store downstairs. Maybe you want it for your side income. You run it or you rent it out for someone to run it.
Okay, that I could see would be a benefit to the community.
Yes, because that's how you create convenience. But on the flip side, I get it. That's also how you get your community a little bit dirtier. Yeah. So, give and take. Like, what do you value more? Like, for example, I think anywhere closer towards downtown, kind of around the Chinatown, Strathcona area, they should definitely consider something like this. Right? Obviously, I'm not saying like, I don't know, like Abbotsford, like, everybody's got acreage and you can do something like this, right? But I think somewhere closer towards the city center, this could be a way to eliminate the high cost of rent for retail spaces, which might actually entice more businesses, more economic, stimulations and stuff like that for the areas around it.
Yeah, I can see it from that angle. I agree with it too.
Yeah, like, once again, not as crazy as Taiwan because we obviously don't have the population for it. Yeah. All right, so that's the zoning. This, give take, the single family house right across the street and then right across the street from a hotel.
Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, that's
how I feel about that.
All right, so that is the 8 comparisons that I wanted to make for Taiwan real estate versus Vancouver real estate. Before we conclude the podcast, there's actually a couple of things I just want to show you. And this is apparently very, very common. What I'm trying to talk about is how long your interior finishing can actually even last. Because Taiwan, unlike Vancouver, is very, very moist. We talked about the dehumidifier and all that situation. It's on the island, and you're surrounded by nothing but water, and you don't get no Arctic wind to kind of dry up the air. So your building inside is always constantly under quite a bit of moisture. And secondly is Taiwan is on a earthquake belt, so it does have earthquakes.
Please don't tell me that's a plant growing out of the ceiling.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Wait. No, it's not. I think that's just tape. I think it's just tape.
Okay.
So I had a chance to visit a unit that the last renovation was done about 25 years ago. The building itself is about 60 years old.
Sorry, what I'm looking at right now is a ceiling that is just full of cracks.
Yeah, and also some wood, like they nail some wood just to keep the cracks in place. And also this.
Wow.
That is basically paint that's literally coming off, and because of earthquakes you can even see some concrete coming off the walls.
Yep, and it looks like the concrete is cracking.
Yeah, and concerning, yes. But once again, I was told that this is very, very common. In Taiwan, every 15 to 20 years it's suggested that you do a full renovation on the interior of your house. Costly, I get it, but that's what happens when all the air that comes is all sealed salt water air, and it's moist and there's earthquakes. Because I know that like a lot of these cracks are actually caused by earthquakes. Yeah. So appreciate, I guess, in a way what we have in Vancouver, because let's be honest, our homes here does have a longer lifespan in terms of interior finishing.
Another reason that supports why Vancouver real estate is so resilient. Given the choice, I would choose Vancouver 100 times over.
Sure. Right, and I mean, that's why we call this place home. Right? So that's basically, I think, all the things that I want to quickly talk about and show you the differences between what's happening in Taiwan real estate and what's in comparison to what we're so accustomed growing up with in terms of designs, finishes, expectations, and stuff like that. Right?
I think my biggest takeaway is that you and I are both pro bidets.
Bidets, yes. Bidets, yes. Washers on the balcony. That's
thank you.
That's a hard no. And no dryer is a hard no for me as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
My parents will be like, no. We hand dry our clothes.
There are certain types of clothing that's better off hand dried. Based on the quality, you can protect the longevity of it. But overall, no.
Oh,
I mean, I live without a dishwasher, so who knows? Maybe I can live without a dryer.
Maybe you need to go back to Hong Kong.
I didn't use one for the first time.
I'll say that's gonna make a difference now. So so that concludes our podcast this week. Thank you guys. If you guys have comments about all the things that we compare, or you'd be like, oh, I remember that. Oh, that's what that is for. Like I said, maybe the faucet in the washer, maybe we're missing something out of it. Because I wasn't there long enough to understand fully like what is the purpose of this and what benefit do we have of this anyways. Right?
Splatter control.
So please, if you have any comments, let us know. Leave a comment. Oh, you dropped your mouse. Leave a comment. Let us know exactly, and maybe let us know which way you would prefer. And so we hope to see you guys back next week. Now that I'm back in town, we'll do more of this for sure. Next week, I think we're gonna be doing market update.
Yep.
Thank you guys for listening to the Micro Vancouver Real Estate.
My name is Jeff.
My name is Joe, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Have a great week.
Bye, guys.